Well, we're filling up. So folks, come on in. Okay, good. All right, we're here. Thank you. I'm working on it. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Wow, I got to tell you, 20 minutes ago, I thought it was just going to be me and Arthur and David. So it's very nice to have you all here. And some people I haven't seen in a while, so welcome. Reminder that this is our last regular Friday night service until January, but next week we have a little program we like to call Super Supper and Hanukkah Celebration. So if you never heard of it and you don't know what's going to happen, you can ask Audrey, but I have a feeling everybody knows what's going to happen. And I said, well, this should be on. So just have to, you don't speak into this microphone. It stays here. Don't forget, by the way, if you're a speaker, please don't touch the mic. But David, is it working? It is working. What's that? Here? Well, we didn't need that last time. What's going on? Maybe we need to turn it up a little bit. There we go. David's my friend, so I can say that. And if your phone is on, like I hear now, you can use this opportunity to turn it off. That better? Yeah? Okay, yeah. Yeah, anyway, so you actually don't have to touch this mic, and we ask that you don't if you're reading. And specifically, we ask the following people because they've volunteered to read tonight. Debbie Lopez, Bobby Slade, who will also be lighting candles for us, Kathy Radner, Amy Good, and Mark Lipson. And we will begin with the first slide, please, Arthur. As our candles stand before us, waiting to be kindled, we take a moment to recall our ancestors. Like them, we seek on Shabbat to dispel the darkness and banish the cold, to bring glowing softness, warmth, and safety into our homes, our communities, and our lives. May our Shabbat lights inspire us to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to praise and not to curse. May the dancing flames of the candles kindle warmth within our hearts, wisdom in our minds, and passion in our lives. And now I'll invite Bobby to please light our Shabbat candles as we sing our blessing.
Baruch
Bruchim habaim, welcome and Shabbat Shalom. Together we gather on this Shabbat as a community of believers. We believe that Judaism is the entire experience of the Jewish people. We believe in the value of celebrating Jewish culture and identity. We believe that all those who choose to celebrate with us are part of our community. We believe that being together strengthens and enhances our humanistic Jewish experience. May this Shabbat be a time of peace and rejuvenation. This is a time of transition as we move from our everyday week to the experience of Shabbat. We turn from the concerns of the outside world and become quiet and peaceful. We, at this moment, in this time, create a community of humanistic Jewish believers. Let us pause and take note as we begin the journey of this Shabbat.
Teka Israel, Ma tovu, O Alecha Yaakov, O Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Israel, Likrat Shabbat, Leguvanecha, Leguvanecha. Teka Israel, Ma tovu, O Alecha Yaakov, O Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Israel.
Shabbat Shalom. When we meet each other on Sabbath, we think of Shalom, peace. It's right there in the greeting. Shabbat has always been a symbol of peace. Our ancestors called it a taste of the world to come. The peace that they sought to create on Shabbat teased them with hopes that such calm might one day prevail throughout the world. Perhaps it was just a fantasy, but it gave them comfort nonetheless. Today we understand that if we desire such a world, it must come through our own work. Perhaps Shabbat can remind us of that. Shabbat Shalom, may we all enjoy a Sabbath of peace.
Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShalom, Shomerei Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Rodefei HaShalom, Shalom Aleichem. Boachem b'shalom, Ohavei HaShalom, Tzedchem l'shalom. Miyom ze leyamim habayim, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShalom, Shomerei Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Rodefei HaShalom, Shalom Aleichem.
When our ancestors pondered the marvels of nature, they felt moved to praise. They would extol the gods to whom they ascribed responsibility for their creation. Even today, there are those who contend that this is the essence of spirituality. Humanists understand it differently. Our spirituality is naturalistic. We celebrate the human spirit. We rejoice in the drama of life on our planet. We stand in awe before the magnificence of the universe. We recognize that appreciating these things is part of what it means to be human. Denying these feelings would be rejecting our very humanity. There are certainly good scientific explanations for why we experience amazement at the sight of a mountain peak, sunset, or newborn child. Yet knowing why we feel this way need not detract one bit from our sense of wonder. So let us continue to burst out in songs praising the joys of life or the beauty of nature, even as we remain fully aware that our praises reach only our ears.
Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Naria, naria, la yom simchatenu, nikadma b'shalom. Naria, naria, la yom simchatenu, bismirot naria lo. Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Naria, naria, la yom simchatenu, nikadme b'shalom. Naria, naria, la yom simchatenu, bismirot naria lo. Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat.
As one with our forebears, we affirm that righteousness and enlightenment shall be our torch. We shall teach these values diligently to our children all the days of our lives. We shall endeavor to live by these values in the comfort of our homes or on cold and windswept roads. Whether adversity bows our heads or fulfillment makes our spirits soar. Our hands shall mete out justice to all, and our eyes shall be open to the light of truth. We shall emblazon our paths through life with this light as a beacon for all humanity.
Tikvati, tikvati mi, evo kochi, kochi bi, vegam bak, evo kochi, kochi bi, vegam bak. Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you.
I'm telling myself, don't touch the mic, don't touch the mic. Okay, if you say so. For generations, our people spoke of their tradition as perfect and everlasting. They extolled the Torah as a tree of life, filled with eternal truths to which we must hold fast in all times and ages. Experience has revealed a different story. There are scarcely any precepts or wisdom that endure forever. People change, societies mature, needs expand, cultures adapt. This precludes any source of ultimate righteousness that is true and altogether just. Our messy reality demands us to acknowledge that righteousness and justice lie not in a book or in some mysterious realm beyond our reach. The burden of the fate of humanity is ours alone to bear. Even the rabbis of old understood that all the Torah study in the world would never be enough to make a difference. The human condition can only improve by the work of our own hands. May we create a world based on truth, justice, and peace.
שלושה דברים העולם קיים. על 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 האמת ועל הדין ועל השלום, על האמת ועל הדין ועל השלום. על שלושה דברים העולם קיים. 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 השלום, השלום, השלום.
Mark, lip sync.
Isaiah prophesied, "They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." The poet Yehuda Amichai wrote, "Don't stop after beating the swords into plowshares. Don't stop. Go on beating and making musical instruments out of them. Whoever wants to make war again will have to turn them into plowshares first."
נעשה שלום בעולם, נעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל העולם, ואמרו שלום. נעשה שלום בעולם, נעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל Shalom, na'aseh shalom ba'olam, na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam ve'yimeru shalom. Na'aseh shalom ba'olam, na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'akol ha'olam ve'yimeru shalom, shalom.
In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. Tonight, we reach out and offer well wishes to these members of our community and their loved ones, to Saul Foreman, Marina Rinsky-Fostovsky, and Jim Walker. And we add to this list anybody who you'd like to add tonight. We'll start on this side. Anybody over here? Yes, Jerry.
Jody Smith.
Anybody else on this side? Over here, anybody? Yes, Deborah.
Sue Luria.
Do we miss anyone? May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, a refuah shlema, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. Today is the 427th day of captivity for those taken hostage on October 7th, 2023. It is the 62nd Shabbat. May those who endure this captivity find the courage to carry on. May those who love them not despair of their return. May they soon emerge from their confinement whole in body and in spirit to know once again the embrace of loved ones.
Makom ha'koach betochenu, makorot ha'bracha mevrotenu. May the source of strength that dwells so deep within us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Shalom. Mekom ha'koach betochenu, mekorot ha'bracha mevrotenu. May those in need of healing know refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Shalom.
In memoriam niskor. You can shed tears that they are gone, or you can smile because they have lived. You can close your eyes and pray that they will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that they have left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see them, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember them and only that they are gone, or you can cherish their memory and let it live on. You can cry, close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what they would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Our congregation continues tonight to mourn the recent deaths of two beloved members of Rudy Simons and last week of Howard Fite. We also this week recall the yahrzeits of these beloved members of our community: Shirley Belkin, Rose Bowman, Marilyn Orphus Bricker, Lennon Gray Citron, Matilda Citron, Bernard Davis, Sylvia DeRovan, Milda Dreyfus, Louis DeZoden, Betty Events, Irving Feldman, Joel Foreman, Dorothy Frank, Cantor Israel Fuchs, Celia Goldsmith, Edward Good, Gerald Jerry Grodsky, Ida Guss, Janet Gusson, Florine Halpern, Madeline Jacobs, Harold Levine, Philip Lowe, Naomi Mandelbaum, Sylvia Michnick, Priscilla Molnar, Hai Muroff, Gertrude Oberstein, Gertrude Pinkney, Irving Radner, Connie Ring, Manya Roast, Mark Shaberman, Nedwin Smokler, Frida Solomon, Richard Dennis Cherhart, David Walker, Edward Warren, Lael Whitney, Betty Wilsey, Tilly Wine, and William Wine. A long list, since this is our only service of this kind during this month, but I know there may be others whom you're remembering. And again, as we did for the ill, if there's someone you'd like to mention. Judy? Anybody else on this side? Anybody over here? We say, Yehi Zikram Livracha. May memories of them provide blessing. We need all the comfort that we can get when we are separated by death from those we loved. And it is those memories that provide us with that blessing and that moment of comfort. If you can do so comfortably, please rise as together we recite our humanistic interpretation of Kaddish. Nitkadal v'nitkadash beruach ha'adam. Let us dignify and ennoble all people in the spirit of our shared humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us each in our own way take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May justice and peace permeate and comfort the house of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Please be seated. Just one other little announcement to remind you that we are on with our retreat. It is happening. And this week I was able to secure for us the one thing that I wasn't sure we would get to do, which is to have a tour of the Plum Street Temple, which is one of the, really one of the most important Jewish landmarks, not just in America, but in the world. So we're going to have an opportunity to visit our sister congregation there. They pulled away from our movement, but that doesn't mean they're any less humanistic Jews than we are, and spend a Shabbat with them. The Rabbi Lauren Werber is just wonderful and has been so helpful for this whole thing. Then we'll have the opportunity to learn a little bit. This is going to tie in with the American Judaism course that I've been teaching. So if you haven't been in the class, all of the sessions are on YouTube. So you can go back and listen to them like a podcast or watch them if you prefer, if you just want to see my head bouncing around. But more to the point, you can come and be with us in person, even if you don't listen to the past lessons, because you know where America is, right? And you probably know American history. So, the stuff that happened to the Jews earlier, you'll catch up on or you'll figure it out. And we'd love to have you. We're also going to be visiting there the Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, where both Rabbi Wein and I were ordained. So in some ways, it is the wellspring of humanistic Judaism. It has also recently stopped ordaining rabbinical students there. Their other campuses are continuing, but Cincinnati is not. And that means that if we want to see it, we better get over there soon. because this is the opportunity we're going to have. I don't know what they're planning to do with the rest of that campus. It's beautiful, small, but a beautiful campus, 6, 7 gorgeous buildings, very, very important historical buildings now going back to the 19th century. We're going to visit the rare book room of the Clow Library, the American Jewish Archives, the largest repository of Judaica, of Americana and Judaica in the world. And we'll be also seeing the Skirball Museum very briefly, at least one of their special exhibits, if not the entire thing. So it's going to be a real blast. There'll be free time. Some of us will go to a ball game. Others will go maybe to a museum or who knows what. So it's going to be great. It'll be a packed 48 hours, I guess around 48 hours, and we're going to have such fun. So the thing to do right now, we're not taking registrations just yet here, but the thing to do is get your hotel room. Because we reserved a certain number of rooms, and we're hoping that we will actually be able to add to them, but I won't know that until I see if the ones we reserved got gobbled up. Apparently there's still a few that have not, so the Hampton Inn won't set any more aside for us, but they will, and I have a feeling we're going to have more people than we even imagined or expected. Okay, that's all. That's the end of the advertisement. So you thought you had the Hulu without the advertisements, didn't you? Somebody please laugh at that. So I have been here now almost 12 years, which is, by the way, just making me realize that I have fewer years ahead of me here. No, that was not an applause line. That's not an applause line. That is just to make me realize how old I'm getting, that I'm going to be retiring in less years than 12. So I am way past 50% of my time here. Who knows how long it'll be, but hope to be here for a while. But that's not what I'm talking about tonight. What I'm talking tonight about is the 12 years that I've been here, which have been really extraordinary years. I think if you've lived these past 12 years, maybe short of involvement in a world war, these have been among some of, I would have to guess, some of the most eventful and uncertain times in our entire nation's history. When I got here, Barack Obama was president. Then we got Trump and everything that went with that, not least of which was the pandemic and that loss of over a year and a half for some of us, of anything resembling normal life. And since then, there's been a few more changes, and I think a lot of us have suffered from whiplash. I'm surprised we're not all wearing those neck things, the result of our country becoming more divided. On top of that, of course, the Jewish people has come under increased attack, relentlessly, from all sides. And on top of that, Trump is again president, so of course there'll be more whiplash. And that's what I think, all of this I think, is what they meant when they coined the phrase, uncertain times. It's pretty much applied to all of my years here. But tonight I want to share a little way that I've been coping with it for the last 12 years. It is a book so profound that for me it feels actually sacred. And it's not the Torah or any other traditional writing, though it is the product of a Jew who suffered for his Jewishness and who brought us wisdom as a result. His name, I know you must know, was Viktor Frankl, Dr. Viktor Frankl, author of the book Man's Search for Meaning. This is a sacred book to me, a source of both comfort and empowerment. So helpful that despite the fact that I already had a battered up copy and a copy on my Kindle, when the special edition came out, I bought that too, gave it to my kids, gave it to friends. I keep it alongside the most important Jewish and human literature on my bookshelf. Now, I assume that some of you are unfamiliar with it, and even if you've read it, I'll provide just a little bit of a reminder of the contents before talking about its importance and what we could learn from it. It's a profound exploration of the human spirit that had been born from Dr. Frankl's harrowing experience during the Holocaust. It actually started, though, before the Holocaust. He was a psychiatrist and a neurologist living in Vienna, already an established and well-known thinker before the outbreak of the war. And his focus, even then, was on the role of meaning in mental health. His key idea, this idea of meaning, is what set his work apart from so many of his contemporaries. What lay behind it was a belief that a person's mental well-being is deeply tied to our sense of purpose. What gives us, each of us individually, meaning in our life. Now this, of course, was profoundly different in the 1920s and 30s, as you can imagine, from what at that time was the traditional psychoanalytical approach, heavily influenced, of course, by Sigmund Freud. It emphasized drives like the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain as the significant or even most significant drivers of well-being. That the primary motivation for human beings is the search for meaning was what we call in Hebrew a chidush, an innovation, a brand new insight that Dr. Frankl came up with. It would go on to become a whole school of psychiatric thought, and while it doesn't dominate today, it is a strong part still of what's called humanistic psychology. It's logotherapy is the name of it, in case you're curious. His career was cut short at that moment in the 1940s by his deportation from Vienna to a number of concentration camps and ultimately Auschwitz, where, as you can of course imagine, he endured unimaginable suffering. He did not then know it, but his wife, parents, and most of his family were murdered throughout the war. And yet he, through a combination of luck and circumstance and also his ability to endure things, contributed to it. He emerged, and he emerged determined now more than ever to share the insights that he had gained about resilience and purpose and survival from being in the camps. Though no one would ever want or hope to have their psychological theories strengthened by living through concentration or death camps, this is what happened with Dr. Frankl, because it was in those places that he observed how the people who found even a glimmer of meaning, and it didn't matter what it was, some purpose in their life, whether the love they felt for another person, their commitment to a faith or a personal value system, any kind of value system, or even the hope of completing a plan or project as he had that might present itself in the future, that these people were better able to endure. It didn't mean they survived. It meant while they were there, they endured. And if you could endure, your possibility of survival, at least, was a little bit greater. After he was liberated, he incorporated what he saw there and used it to shape his psychological theories. And in fact, he established an entire personal philosophy of life, and it's one that I have increasingly, particularly since arriving here, adopted for myself. He shared it with others in this book, which was published very quickly because it was the result not only of his experience, but of all of his research early on. Man's Search for Meaning came out in 1946. The book has since become one of the most influential pieces of literature in the 20th century. It has been translated into dozens of languages, read by millions and millions of people worldwide. He would go on to spend most of his post-war life sharing this message of hope, of resilience, with audiences throughout the globe. His work continues to inspire people of all backgrounds. It offers timeless lessons about the human capacity to find meaning, to find purpose, to use those to build resilience in the face of whatever our challenges are. It's divided into two parts, the first recounting Dr. Frankl's life in the camps, but as Joseph and I were talking about before the service, it's not an in-depth look at that. It's observations about people. But it does offer, in a sense, a deeply personal narrative, too, of how he suffered and saw others suffering, and yet survived and endured. Once he gets past this first section, he introduces this theoretical psychological framework, this logotherapy, which, by the way, comes from the Greek logos, meaning word or reason, or in this case, meaning. And lying at its very core is a teaching that underlines everything, which is this profound idea that first really drew me to him. This profound idea that we are never bereft of choice. Now that may sound odd when you think about where he was and where this realization came from. But the choice that he discusses is this power to find a purpose that in turn grants or even can restore dignity to our existence. So just like the Torah, And the other books of the Hebrew Bible, the Talmud, have their iconic verses. We talked about one a few weeks ago. I'll mention a few today. Some of these so central that we recite them. For us, Ephah Ori, right? Our Rabbi Wein provided that piece of Torah for us. Others, the Shema. Well, there's a line, there's more than one, but one in particular, in Dr. Frankl's book, a single sentence that I think carries with it the essence of how we can face life's greatest challenges. It's this: everything, he said, can be taken from a man. I'm going to read it in the original. I understand that it's not egalitarian, but it's a book of its time, and it's the words he used. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Can you imagine thinking that you are free in Auschwitz, and yet he found a way to be free in the choice he made of how to face that experience? When I first heard about this, I almost couldn't believe it. This is, to me, the exact opposite of freedom, to be in a place like that, this place of unimaginable suffering. And yet he turned this experience into a message of hope. The hope that can only be generated by a firm acceptance, a concession to what your reality is, and a realization that no matter what happens, no matter what is taken from us, what suffering we undergo, we have that one freedom. And it brings with it dignity, because dignity is about our ability to choose who we're going to be, to decide how we're going to respond. This, Dr. Frankl taught us through, of course, his theories, but more importantly, through his experiences, through what he observed, is the one thing that no person, no situation can ever take from any of us. Now, what he experienced was so profound, so, I keep using this word, unimaginable, because it really is, that sometimes it might feel, when you reflect upon his words, that his wisdom can only attach itself to that kind of suffering. But he really dismissed these limitations. He was a compassionate healer, after all. And he understood that we all have our sources of anxiety, of despair. He was repeatedly asked about this. And he used to call this the mathematics of suffering, this idea that we can compare one person's suffering to another. He says that's meaningless. That's really not what we do in life. Our suffering is our suffering. Our anxiety is our anxiety. His response was compassionate and profound. He emphasized that suffering, no matter its origin, no matter its cause, well, it's universal. And its significance is undiminished by scales of comparison. I hear this as a rabbi all the time. People are said, oh, I shouldn't compare myself. You don't have to compare yourself. What a person feels is what a person feels. What a person undergoes is what they undergo. And he taught that whether it's the result of our everyday struggles or of some Auschwitz-like tragedy, suffering challenges us all in a fundamental way. And because it does, it invites us to use this freedom to identify the purpose, the meaning that can help us endure. I call his wisdom sacred wisdom, teaching us that resilience comes from meaning. This is, to me, a most profound idea. Knowing that even when all of our other choices have been taken from us, that we have this ability to choose our response, that too, to me, is profound. Now, whatever meaning, whatever purpose that we set for ourselves, well, that's a highly personal decision, of course. Dr. Frankl did provide some guidance about how to approach it, and we're going to talk about some ways that we look for strength inside to locate this purpose. Some of it's even backed up by Jewish wisdom. There are various experiences throughout our history in which we suffered, and our rabbis and other thinkers responded in ways that really do echo, or perhaps his ideas echo theirs. So in the time remaining, I want to talk about two of them. I want to talk about how turning inward can help us find purpose within, and how turning outward can help us find purpose and meaning through connections to others. So let's begin first with this need to build the strength and resilience from within that allows us then to make the choice of how we're going to face what we undergo. So in the book, his great insight is that this is where resilience begins. It's a great insight because it is so obvious, right? If we ourselves can't find that inner strength, we're going to have to figure out a way to locate it. There can be no freedom to choose our responses without it. We have to ground ourselves. He described how even in those brutal conditions of Auschwitz, he witnessed the ways in which some people did. They retained a sense of their own dignity by, for instance, sharing their last piece of bread with a fellow prisoner, or perhaps finding ways to comfort others and themselves, even despite all the suffering. These acts, he observed, were very, very small, almost insignificant, but they revealed a source of inner strength that the actors felt, that they were developing or had developed. Jewish tradition echoes this need. You remember we spoke a few weeks ago, those of you who were here, we learned about Hillel's dictum, if I am only for myself, if I'm not for myself, what am I? If I'm for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Well, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? That's the correct quote. Is a reminder that resilience begins with self-care. We have to pay attention to what our needs are, at least understand them if we can't fill them, which it may not always be possible to do when we're suffering. What kind of strength do we need for that? Well, the Talmud has another profound metaphor, this one from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva compared in a certain sugya in the Talmud, a certain section in the Talmud, the strength of a reed to the strength of a tree. When you look at the two, one, of course, looks like the strongest. The tree, it's rigid, it's strong, it's mighty. And yet, if you've ever been through a hurricane, and I have, or seen the results of a tornado, and I have, I can tell you that what happens to the trees is that they all fall over. They are easier to uproot. The reed, on the other hand, the reed follows the necessity of the weather, of the conditions. It bends when it needs to. It stands up straight when it needs to. Our strength is not the sturdiness of a tree. It is the ability that we have as human beings to stand straight or to bend, to accommodate ourselves to what is necessary. Now, the decision is ours, and the circumstances vary. This is not to be said a time to give in, but a time to understand that strength is the ability to make decisions and choices, especially when they will keep us from breaking. Think about our storms, the storms we have to face. Think about these last dozen years alone, this whiplash that we've undergone. And then we've had so many personal losses. To survive these, we've needed to refuse to give in. Certainly we are frequently bent with grief. But to survive them, we find new ways to engage with life. We find ways to call on our reservoirs, and we all have them, to find renewed purpose, whether it means finding new interests, and it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it gives our lives meaning. It might be getting involved with the community. That's why we're here. It might be getting involved with a charity. It might just be developing a hobby or a fascination with something that you want to learn a great deal about. It could literally be anything. There's no one size fits all. For Dr. Frankl, it was a decision to focus not on his suffering, but instead to think about the happy times he had with his wife, to picture her with him. Now that could be a source of despair for some, but for him, it was a source of hope. He did not know at this time that she was gone. And she could just as easily have been, for that matter, alive, as far as he knew. He chose to do this to free himself of the despair that the Nazis wanted to impose upon him. And as I said, what may be one source of strength may be another source of weakness or despair. That's normal. We're all going to come to this in a different way. The second way that we find strength is by turning outward, and I've already mentioned some of them because there's so much overlap. Dr. Frankl noticed the inner strength because people were willing to reach out to others, to give of their food, to give of their comfort. This is a kind of strength that can also come from our relationships, our connections with others. We are a social species. We evolved that way. In Auschwitz, he noticed that those who found meaning in helping others, who really placed that as their purpose, were more likely to endure. It's also a very Jewish idea. There's a famous dictum, Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Bazeh, in this case speaking about the Jewish community, about how everyone in our community, all Jews, are responsible for one another. A similar aphorism that I also like, Al tifrosh min hatzibur, do not separate yourself from the community. Now why? Why do they say this? It's because they understood what Dr. Frankl was saying, that this is what people need. We need community, we need connections, we need each other. About the latter, my teacher, Rabbi Jacob Pedikovsky of blessed memory, once said, Jewish living is community living. The Jewish hermit, he used to believe, is inconceivable. I think that's true. We don't do this on our own. We don't go up to a mountain and go into a cave. Jews find each other. One Jewish legal discussion even asks about whether someone can be counted as part of a minyan. You know what a minyan is, right? The quorum of 10 necessary to have a public prayer service. And the question was, can someone be counted as a minyan if they're outside of a window? Well, yes, we can see them and they can see us. What about if they're in another building? If they can see us and we can see them, they're part of our community. What if they're on the second floor and they can't see us? That's where the line is drawn. They need to be visible. We need to be part of each other's experiences. The pandemic threatened this in ways that we never could have imagined. But look at what we did. Between technology and creativity, we managed to retain our connections. This helped us to endure. Our entire congregation went online. You remember the fundraiser? We did a fundraiser online. It was like a PBS telethon, but we were all communicating with each other throughout it. People held dinner parties on Zoom. How many of you did something like that? Yeah, a lot of people did that. Sadly, we held funerals on Zoom too. But then there were the family backyard get-togethers in the driveways and the parks. I remember in the park near Arthur and my house, we would see groups of people in large, wide circles. They were doing book clubs. They were doing all kinds of political discussions. In isolation, we are weakened. And this is not about social obligations. It is our very survival. These connections strengthen us. And this is what Dr. Frankl observed and what our tradition has long known. When we connect with others, we find strength sometimes that we didn't even know we had. I marvel when people join the congregation and tell me, well, I was interested in this and this and that, but what I've really come to love is going to Mahjong or coming on a Friday night and hanging out at the Oneg if Jeff ever shuts up, and so forth and so on. These bonds really do hold us together. There is, Dr. Frankl said, an urgency to all of this. Remember the third part of Hillel's aphorism, the one we talked about a few weeks ago, if not now, when? Pretty famous quote. That's a powerful reminder for us that life is fleeting. That's really what it's about, that we cannot ever know how much time we have to pursue anything, much less the meaning and the purpose that strengthens us. Other rabbis said very similar things. On Friday nights, about a year ago, we started singing a song. The words came from a Rabbi Tarfon. They're also in the Pirkei Avot, the chapters or the wisdom of our sages. And it's got a little calypso tune. So everybody knows it. Lo alecha hamlecha ligmor. You know what I'm talking about. It is not your duty to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. Well, just above that, Rabbi Tarfon said something else. And we don't sing this part. Hayom katzar v'hamlacha meruba. The day is short, and there is much work to do. The day is short. Another reminder that life is fleeting, that if we wait too long to act, the moment may pass us by. And we will regret it. We will regret it because it could have made our lives better, even if our lives were difficult. And I hear this all the time. Dr. Frankl had his own take on urgency. He put it this way, and I'll explain. Live as if you were living for the second time and had acted wrongly the first time. So what's he talking about? How is this related to what I just said? Well, even in Auschwitz, he had found moments of beauty that reminded him that life could have meaning, even after, as he always assumed, Auschwitz. He remembered seeing a sunset over the barbed wire one day and thinking how beautiful the world could be. He realized at that moment that there were times, many of them, that he had seen those sunsets and not truly appreciated them. Even as at that moment in Auschwitz, it was the most significant sign of hope that he could have ever possibly asked for. For us, his experience is a reminder, too, that living with urgency means appreciating all the signs of hope. Inwardly, the strength to stand like a reed or bend as necessary in the face of despair, to appreciate what we have and what we can be. Outwardly, the strength we derive from connections, the love that we feel for family and friends. When I was recently having a bout of great pain, feeling horrible, I looked at a picture on the electronic frame that we have in our room, in our living room, and there was my granddaughter, and 2 seconds later slid over a slide of my grandson. There are communities here to support us. We are here to support the members of our community. Together, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. These are sparks of meaning and purpose that can make us stronger. He also said, as I conclude, one who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Now, this was not a promise that life was going to be easy, and I think anybody living knows that. It was a reminder that even the darkest times, when we have that why, hope is possible. The last of human freedoms, remember this, is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is Dr. Frankl's greatest insight. This is my Shema, my hero Israel. A reminder that no matter what we face, that freedom remains, to choose meaning over emptiness. You may have heard a beautiful little Hebrew phrase. Maybe you were growing up in a more traditional community. Chazak ve'ematz. You ever hear that at shul or synagogue? No? We should all learn that one. Chazak ve'ematz. Be strong and courageous. It's a great reminder of our ability to meet life's challenges with resilience and dignity. May we all find the strength to be strong, to have courage. Chazak ve'ematz to everyone, because there are more uncertain times ahead. Thank you very much. All righty. We're going to sing a last song, and I think that the oneg is prepared, so you can do what you really came here to do.
Peace be with you wherever you go. Peace be with you whatever you do. Peace be with you till we meet again. Peace be with you, my friend. Love be with you wherever you go. Love be with you wherever you do. Love be with you till we meet again. Love be with you, my friend. Join me with you wherever you go. Join me with you whatever you do. Join me with you till we meet again. Join me with you, my friend. Shalom Aleichem, shalom, shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom.
Thank you to Joseph, to David for the streaming, Arthur for the slides, and all of you, Shabbat Shalom.